Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All on the Table. This is our third episode, and today we're going to be covering an RPG, another role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, near and dear to my heart. Although I only discovered it about 2 years ago, it has really captured my imagination, and I love it a lot. It's called Seventh Sea. For a long, long time, there was only the first edition of 7th Sea that was available, which you see in this lovely volume right here, 7th Sea. It is a game created by Mr. John Wick. He's a very prolific creator in the RPG circles. He worked on a lot of the early Legend of the Five Rings stuff. 7th Sea was his own book. He created an RPG setting called Orc World, where it's kind of a flip side of the fantasy genre. You get to play as the orcs, and all of the standard fantasy races are the bad guys. And a whole bunch of other things. Now, 7th Sea has just recently performed a feat of note. They just recently, pretty much like early this year, created a Kickstarter for the second edition of 7th Sea. John Wick got in a deal with Alderac Entertainment Group that they would be the publisher, and John Wick would have full creative control and the mechanics of the game. And we came out with this wonderful little thing, 7th Sea Second Edition.
Which is stunningly beautiful on the cover.
Inside.
Like the difference between the two, though.
Well,
the first one's beautiful on the cover. The second one
came out in like the 90s, I believe. It's like a complete difference. 99. This came out in 99, and this is this year. We got this like a month ago. Now the Kickstarter is notable, of course, for being the highest grossing RPG on a Kickstarter. It holds the record. It grossed $1.3 million off of 11,483 backers. He was shocked, to say the least. It still holds the record to this day. It beat the crap out of Exalted. I don't remember what Exalted was, but it was much less than this. He reached his, ironically, he reached his Kickstart goal in 7 minutes of it being released, so we thought that was pretty funny.
I hope he reached $1 million at like 700 minutes.
No.
7,000.
No. But I personally pledged, me and my significant other pledged to the $200 goal, which got us not this lovely version of the tome. This version of the tome is on loan currently. I'm going to buy myself my own version of this. We got the special edition one, and it's like all black leather with a skull and crossbones stamped on it, and it's all like fancy. It's like a fancy special edition. It's essentially never going to leave its plastic case.
Of course. Mounted on your wall.
Maybe. I also have a Legend of the Five Rings book like that. The 20th anniversary, they released a bunch of special. They released 9 different ones, and each of them had a clan on the back, the clan symbols, gold stamped on the back. So I have that one sitting in its plastic, hermetically sealed.
Is one of your goals to own all of your favorite RPGs limited edition books?
I'll be well on my way.
I was gonna say
I own the limited edition reprinting of first edition D&D.
Jesus.
Yeah, they were all like leather bound and
When's
stuff.
the last time you even played first edition D&D?
I never played it.
There you go,
I just thought it was cool.
Hey, it's one of those things that you're never going to get again.
I had a bunch of store credit at the local game store. I was like, hey, these are looking really cool, so I got them.
There you go.
That was the end of it.
Some of the best stories start that way.
So, 7th Sea is a story. It takes place, the world it takes place in is called Thea. And it is kind of like Europe's second cousin, twice removed.
So super
Basically,
poor
like,
and
no, it's not.
responsible for Brexit?
No, it's not really an alternate reality. It's just that if you look at the map, I don't know if you can see how well you can see it, But the map is kind of like a weird European-looking pastiche. Like you've got the British Isles up here, and then the France analogy is here, and then Germany, and then this is Spain, Italy, like Poland, Russia, and then the Scandinavians countries. Back in first edition,
You can tell it's very European fed, even
Yeah.
by the characters.
this is the first edition version of the map, which
That one's really hard to see, just because the colors.
But the thing about the first edition version of the map is the Poland country isn't there. That's been retconned, that it's even there. They didn't have the Poland style country. They had like the Empire of the Crescent Moon, which is like Arabia, and then they have Cathay, which is kind of like an Asia, China type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So neither of those two exist in the second edition?
No, they do. The other two is just they're not there. They're like the
Oh, I
continent
get it. They're off the
is
map.
completely different.
Mm.
I don't know why he really went with that decision, but he has said that this is the way 7th Sea should be, and this is the way this one was the way 7th Sea ended up, and this is the way 7th Sea should have been. Is what he's saying. Is what he says setting wise.
Okay.
Now, if you want to play the first edition of the RPG, go right ahead. It's great. It's fun. It's very cinematic in style. It's a 10-sided RPG, a 10-sided die system, D10 system. Little, you remember those from free RPG Day?
Your cock.
The ones I won. So they use 10-sided dice, like these, right here. This is my bag of 10-sided dice with the very faded Legend of the Five Rings logo on it. I got it when I got the box set for L5R. The Second City box set came with a set of dice.
Jesus.
These ones
That
specifically.
would have been forever ago.
Oh yeah, a while ago. So yeah, you use 10-sided dice. You have a stat, and you have a skill. If you have so many, you have a rating insert in them, which is represented by dots on the sheet. So you add, when you make a roll, like say for example you're sword fighting, it would be your dexterity, or in this case I believe it's a different name. Your finesse and your sword fighting skill. The sheet kind of looks like this in first edition, like that.
The sheet breaks down each one of your skills and abilities separately.
Yeah.
It's a lot more, in my opinion anyway, when Phil taught us how to play 7th Sea the first time, I find it's a very, very simplistic learning curve.
Very simplistic. In first edition and second edition, the stats are the same. Brawn, finesse, wits, resolve, and panache. Brawn is physicality, your physical strength. Finesse is your physical speed. Wits is your mental speed. Resolve is your overall toughness, mental and physical. And panache is your style, which is actually very important in this setting because it's all about swashing them buckles. I have just when people are like, "What's 7th Sea like?" I like to say Princess Bride the RPG is the main descriptor I like to give.
Yep, I can see that.
So let's say
That's how the RP usually turns out.
the simplest way of the die roll is, let's say you're sword fighting, you would roll your finesse if you're a speed based swordsman, which is most of the time because you're fighting with rapiers and sabers and things like that. So you would use your finesse and your relevant sword fighting skill. So sword like saber or I don't know, like your rapier. So if you have 3 dice in your finesse and 3 dice in your rapier, you add them together, 6 dice. 6 dice is what you roll, and then based on the results of the roll, the GM gives you a difficulty number. This is in first edition, by the way. The GM gives you a difficulty number. So let's say 7. You roll your dice, and
The chance of you beating 7.
every 7 or above
Oh.
gets you a success.
I only played 2nd edition, so.
This was known as the roll and keep system. Oh shoot, no, I fucked that up completely. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different game. In this one, you roll the dice.
It's just 10s,
You
right?
roll, you roll the 6 dice.
Yeah.
Right? And
It's just 10s
you
or
keep.
they add up above. Yeah.
No, you keep. No, this is different. First edition is the roll and keep system. It's like L5R. You keep a number of dice equal to your stat. So you add your finesse and your swordsmanship, which would be 3 and 3, but you keep your finesse, your stat. So it's 6 keep 3. So you roll your dice, your 6 dice, and you keep your 3 highest. So in this case it would be 6, 6, and a 7. And you add them together, and that's 12, 19. So your number you reached is a 19. And if it's equal to the target number you're supposed to hit, you succeed. And that's how 7C, the first edition, worked.
I prefer the second edition.
Well, the second edition is completely different beast.
That's what I mean, yeah.
In the second edition of 7C, mechanically, it's roughly the same way. You have still your 5 stats. Your skills are more streamlined. They are...
There's not like a rapier and a...
Yeah,
so
there's just weaponry.
Just weaponry.
Just weaponry. Depending on what weapon you use, doesn't really matter. There's no damage die. There's nothing like that. The new version of 7C is far more cinematic in nature than the old version. The old version could turn into just a straight up grindy RPG like every other tabletop. But the new 7C can't do that, and there's a reason why. John Wick wanted to make the new version of 7C far more about the story and the cinematics than anything else. So in this version, if you have 3 in weaponry and a 3 in finesse, you add those 6 dice together, and then you roll the 6 dice, as usual, your d10s. But this time, you pair off dice that have rolled groups of 10. So anytime any dice that are together add together into a 10, it is called a raise. So in this case, I rolled a 10, a whole bunch of high dice actually. So a 10, a 9 and a 1, and an 8 and an 8 with a 7 left over.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that would be 3 raises.
So that's 3 raises, and the last die that's left over, that 7, can't be made into another pair that equals 10 or higher, so it gets discarded.
And can actually be purchased by the villains.
Yeah. Then the DM can, but that's the DM mechanic. We're just talking about the player mechanic right now. So I have 3 raises. So what I do when I roll the dice in the new version of 7C is the DM decides what's going on. So let's say, for example, we'll take the example that they use in the demo and stuff. Let's say you're in a burning building, and you want to get out of the burning building. You tell the DM, or the game master in this case, the GM in this game, what you want to do. The GM then tells you, okay, so you want to get out of the building. Your risk in this scene is to get out of the building. Mm-hmm. Your consequences are you are going to take 2 damage from the fire and the falling debris. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you choose how you're going to get through. Are you going to use your physical speed? Then you would use your finesse. Are you going to use
just going to
bust through a wall? Then you would use your brawn, your physical power. Are you going to smartly figure out a way out? Then you would use your wits. Mm-hmm. So in this game, it's way more freeform. So let's say for the sake of argument, you're going to use your finesse. You're going to use your physical speed to get to the other door. In this case, you're going to be dodging debris, flying debris, so you're going to be performing some jumps, maybe some rolls. So you're going to use an acrobatics or athletics, depending on how your character wants to do it. So we'll say acrobatics. So let's say you have a 3 in your finesse and a 3 in your acrobatics. So we have 6 dice. Again, we'll use this 6 dice example. You roll your 6 dice, and again, you look at your results and you pair them off. So I have 1 10, so that's a risk. That's a raise right there. I have
8 and a 3 and an 8 and a 4.
An 8 and a. Actually, I have an 8 and a 4 and an 8 and a 4.
Well, either way.
Either way.
Either way, it adds up to more than 10. You always have 1 dice left over this time.
So I have an 8 and a 4 and an 8 and a 4. So I have 1 die left over again. Actually, yeah, no, I would have no die left over if I went like this.
I suppose it's a better way to protect against the
DM.
The DM.
So I have a 10. I have 2 8s that I add together, and then I have a 4 4 and a 3, which will add together as well to make groups of 10 or higher. In this case, I get 3 raises. So I can then spend my raises towards accomplishing any of the the risks or the goals that the DM has set for me. So the first goal I want is to reach the end of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So I take one of my raises and I put it aside and I say, I accomplished my goal. I will reach the outside of the room. Then I have two risks that are happening during the roll, which is I would take 2 damage from falling debris. So then I would take one of my raises to nullify 1 point of damage, and the other raise to nullify the other point of damage. Therefore, I make it all the way through the room successfully.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say the DM did something else. Let's say the DM was like,
That damn letter.
yeah, let's say the DM was like, okay, you can spend a raise to make it to the end. You can spend a raise to nullify 2 points of damage, and there's an opportunity in the room. You see a letter on the table sealed with a royal insignia.
I went for it.
So when you run through the room, you can
Spend another
do
raise
these
to
3 risks.
basically grab it on the way.
And you're like, one of them to succeed, one of them to avoid 1 point of damage, and another one to take advantage of the opportunity the DM presented me and grab that letter on my way out. At the end of it all, you'll still be taking the 1 damage that you didn't prevent, because there was supposed to be 2 damage prevented. So you managed to take 1 damage, but now you have the secret letter, and you still make it out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So it lets you have more cinematic opportunities in the game.
That's it. You can choose to just run through that room. You can choose to protect yourself. You'll never know what was in the letter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it might not even be important. The DM could just throw something there to throw you off.
Yeah, it's all part of the story, but the DM's encouraged to.
Well, of course,
no
yeah,
red
you need to play
herring.
around
Don't really do many red herrings. Now that's mechanics. That's pretty much how 7C works. There are other things like hero points. Hero points are basically like little points that you can spend. You get so many per game depending on how many players there are. We can spend them to give another player another die on his roll. Give yourself another die on one of your rolls. Activate certain abilities that you might have, or certain sorceress powers if you are a spellcasting class, or if you're a spellcasting character, I should say, because there are no classes in this game.
There are shapeshifters, though. That was fun.
Yeah. So 7C takes place in the world of Thea, like I said at the beginning of this episode. Kind of Europe's second cousin. The story of Thea is kind of complex in a bit, but it can be easily summarized. Back in the Roman times, which was when it was called Numa, the city of Numa, there were these senators who were losing political power to common folk. So they decided to strike a deal with these beings known as the Cerneth. They don't know who the Cerneth were, but they're very. The hints are that they're very demonic, and
So deal with the devil.
essentially, and each of these senators received a unique sorcerer's power in exchange for servitude to the Cerneth. The Cerneth only asked their servants to do one thing: use your powers. So they ended up.
Sounds pretty simple.
Each of these senators, when the dissolution of the Numan Empire occurred, they each ended up in one other part of Thea and founded the country, became one of the noble families that founded the countries. So most of the nobility in 7C that are descended from them all have potentially sorcerer's bloodline that they can use. There are other powers, because not all of the beings known as the Cerneth, they're not just the Cerneth, but powerful beings.
Mm-hmm.
There's a being called Matushka. She's essentially like, if you describe her, it would be Mother Russia. She is like the living spirit of the land called Usura, which is what they called Russia. And she can grant her followers power to turn into beasts and things like that. Like you basically
Wolves
choose
and bears.
Yeah, you choose like an animal companion or type of animal that you can do, like you can affect differently powers. In the first edition, there's powers in the first edition that aren't in the second, and powers in the second that weren't in the first. In the end, in the first edition, with all the supplements they ended up being released and things, there was a huge list of powers. Like, it was pretty crazy, and then that was just like the Thean part of it. Then there's like other countries that have their own powers with their own sorcerers, their own types of sorcery that are completely unrelated. Now Thea is a European and analog continent, which is where most of the action takes place. The different countries, the first one is Avalon. The Avalon country is the UK. There is the main Avalon island. Then there's Innismore, which is Ireland. And then there's the Highland Marches, which is Scotland. The thing about Avalon is they had a deal with a different sorcerer's power known as the Sidhe. The Sidhe are basically fairies in the Midsummer Night's Dream sense. Like they're like ethereal fairy beings, and we don't talk about like I'm not talking like pixies and things like that, although they do exist. I'm talking more like the fucking changelings that were cruel.
Oh yeah, they're gonna fuck you up.
Like the ancient scary fairy tales.
They love
fairies.
playing pranks and torturing people. Yeah.
The Seelie and the Unseelie and things like that. Now, in particular, Avalon is their power. Their sorcerer's power is. Hold on, I have to look at what it's called again. I haven't looked at this in a while. A few weeks. Glamour. Where are you, sorcery? There we go. The different sorceries. So yeah, the Avalon is called Glamour. In this case, they changed it up a little, where the types of powers.
Book pages.
Yeah, the types of power are called Glamour, but the actual sorcery is called being a Knight of Avalon. Now, what you do is there's a certain legend in Avalon histories. It's kind of like a King Arthur type of thing, and he had a set of knights that each represented an ideal. So when you become a sorcerer in Avalon, you choose one of these knights to follow, and it determines what your set of powers are. So, like, there's a knight here that's about the forests, and a knight that's called the Siegebreaker, and a knight called the Keen, and the Wealthy, and things of the sort. And they all have, like, their own little background stories.
Is there 12 knights?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe. 20.
Oh, damn
There are
it.
20 knights. Depending on which knight you pick, they have a major trait and a minor trait. And the major trait means that they have a stronger power in this trait. So if, like, this one here, the Pious, his major trait is Panache. So his strongest power is using the Panache trait. His minor trait is Resolve. So his weakest power is using the Resolve. But he gets 2. And you get a whole bunch of them. And you basically become kind of a semi-paladin type. But even though you're called a knight, you don't have to be like the chivalrous, armor-wearing, sword-wielding knight.
Fuck no, you can still be a pirate.
It's just a name.
That's it.
It's just a name for it. So
this game's about creating the sexiest and randiest pirates you can.
So when you become a knight, you have to uphold those ideals by whatever way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the Knights of Avalon are all about legend and stories. So the more you spread the legend, the more powerful you become. And eventually, when your legend grows, your personal power will grow with it. And people can dedicate themselves to your legend eventually. And things of the sort.
So can you like, raise your own armies?
Oh yeah, you just have to take direct backgrounds.
Son of a bitch.
Marty's character in first edition
I was playing the wrong class.
Marty's character in first edition was one of the French musketeer guys, and he was like a captain of a squad, and he had all these musketeers following him around and shit like that.
Damn it.
Yeah. Which brings us to the next country in our tour of Not So Europe, Montaigne, which is the France analogy. Montaigne, of course, picture, musketeers, swashbuckling,
Mm-hmm.
that era, all of the
Swinging baguettes and smoking cigarettes.
They have a guy called L'Empereur, who is, of course, the Emperor of Montaigne, and he has recently done something drastic to the nations of Thea. He has outlawed the church from his country because the church was condemning sorcerers' bloodlines. And he was like, no, we want our Sorcerer's Bloodline. Now, the Montaigne Sorcerer's Bloodline is a magic called Porte, which sounds like portal because it is. You use your blood to create tears in reality, and you can use these tears to teleport you or different things through them.
So all you have to do to teleport is to cut a bitch.
Kill yourself. The
Probably
price has to be paid. There is a thing where there's some Porte mages who don't pay the price with themselves, and they're considered renegades, because you are literally tearing a hole into reality without giving anything back. So
Well, you're giving something back. You're just not personally giving it.
yeah, they're not very much approved. So this is what Porte looks
Can't
like.
be a murderous one. Holy fuck!
You're literally tearing. Picture right here. You're literally tearing a bloody hole through reality, and using it to teleport.
That looks like it would take a lot of blood.
No, that's the hole through reality. His cut is just like on his hand or whatever. Things like that.
He doesn't even look like he cut himself. There's an awful lot of fucking blood on that
He might
dagger.
have he might be a villain. He might have cut.
See? He's fucking stabbed a bitch. The very first guy they introduced you to stabbed somebody else.
So how you use Porte most of the time is you mark something with your blood. So you bleed on like
Like a
a
doorway
sword
or a rock or
whatever, and then you bleed on a location. And you'll always know where things that are of your blood are. So you also technically always know where the members of your family are. Anyone who's got a blood relation to you, you know exactly where they are at all time when you activate Porte. It's a really cool power. I've seen it used very effectively. In the first edition, there were certain powers where it was like Porte Mage was good enough that someone shot you, you could just slice a hole in reality, and the bullet would go through the hole instead of hitting you.
One thing I was thinking is if you're fighting a villain or something, let's say he's on the other end and he's like a few feet away behind like an entire army of men, you should cut your hand and throw your blood across the battlefield and then cut a hole open and become where your blood is right on top of the guy.
You can do that. Now the thing about Porte,
It surpasses the army of
the
characters.
thing about Porte is when you teleport yourself through, you're actually walking into the doorway you've opened, into the hole you've opened through reality. When you do that, you have to keep your eyes closed, because the whole time you're walking, you were hearing voices telling you, loved ones, enemies, anything, telling you to open your eyes, or like, be careful. You should, oh, look out, you're going to step into something. Oh, you're going to fall. And the whole reason is, the moment you open your eyes, you are forever lost in whatever realm you are walking through. Which is rumored to be hell. If that happens, if the DM at any point needs you to roll for it, and you fail, you give the DM your sheet, and it's been fun playing, that character is now lost forever. There is no coming back from a Porte fuck up. You've been lost to hell. Like, your character's never coming back. There's no way. There's no rules in it yet.
You should make the characters actually roleplay it and basically have their eyes closed while they're traveling through and have your friend just fuck with them until they
Yeah, you can do
see whether
that.
they open their eyes or not.
You can totally do that. I don't see a problem with that.
Corey like tickles you, you start laughing, your eyes open. Oh, you're dead.
Anyways, so yeah, so that's the Montaigne power. It's pretty
That's
cool.
pretty powerful, actually.
Yeah. Then you have the Eisen. In the first edition of the game, the Eisen, they're our German analogy. They have just finished what was known as the War of the Cross, where essentially the Catholic Church, in this is called the Church, the Vaticine Church is what they call it, and in the real world, Protestantism, which in this world is called Objectionism, had a war, basically a civil war, a schism within the church, and they fought it over the battlefields of Eisen. The resulting war basically completely decimated the entire country. There's like salted fields, destroyed land, like crops won't grow. The Eisen military was one of the strongest in the world, so they would hire themselves out. They'd be hired out to different countries to fight on their behalf. And in the end, the land of Eisen is
Basically a deadland.
Yeah, it's a bleak landscape. Like, think of the most haunted German forests with like sickly trees growing all over the place and vast abandoned battlefields filled with rusting armor and old siege engines and things like that. In the first edition, they did have a power called Zorastrom, and what it was basically disintegration by touch. It wasn't so much disintegration; it was like aging. We could age something by touching it.
Jesus.
In the book, it was unavailable to PCs, and there was just like one NPC in the entire setting who still had it. The entire bloodline got wiped out, got hunted down by a new secret organization.
Well, that's a ridiculously powerful
Yeah.
magic.
In second edition, I have yet to see a mention of Zorastrom. Instead, there's something called Hexenwerk. And Hexenwerk is necromancy. It is raising the dead. It is incredibly disgusting sorcery. They talk about it in great detail, and they say that it is right fucked up. I'll just give you an example. Hexenwerk is a form of sorcery / alchemy that they put together, and you create a bunch of unguents, and unguents are essentially like little alchemical things you create from body parts. So, for example, dead man's blood, mixture from blood from a fresh corpse and a number of herbs, poison roots, and other things. If you introduce dead man's blood into the body of an undead, the monster becomes helpless for the rest of the scene. It must be ingested, so it can't be just applied to a weapon and used to attack. Ghost eyes. Eyes carved from the recent dead mixed with holy water and mandrake, then smeared across the eyelids. Ghost eyes allows you to see, for a single scene, spirits, ghosts, and other such monsters would typically be invisible. Corpse tongue. The severed tongue of a corpse, soaked in nightshade and ground into a paste, and then rubbed on your own tongue. Allows you to speak with the dead.
I don't think I want to speak to the dead that bad.
And so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Master's bread, a dead brain with a number of hallucinogenic herbs, mushrooms, and the like are mixed into a dough-like substance, allowed to dry, and then eaten.
So basically what you're telling me is they're making it so that nobody wants to be German in this game.
Well, no, the necromancy is fucking gross. Like, the necromancy in this game is gross, but it works. It's very powerful.
True.
Like, it can raise the dead. It allows you to communicate with the dead. It, it can create a zombie army if you really want to. But whenever you do it, you gain, it's got its own corruption meter, and you gain certain corruption meters, and then you have to atone and remove the corruption eventually. Now,
How would one atone?
the big trick for Hexenwerk, though, is that if the body parts that you're using come from a dead hexen, which is what they're called, the necromancers, if the body parts come from another dead hexen, they're twice as potent. So they like to kill each other and use each other's body parts to perform their rituals.
Oh my god.
Now, the other thing that the Eisen have
Sure.
is they have a special metal known as Dracheneisen. And in this game, Dracheneisen is adamantine. It's impenetrable. It will bypass almost every reduction, and nothing can get through it if there's an armor made of it.
Jesus.
There is no background to get it in the game at starter, at character creation. You can't get it at character creation. In the first edition, you pretty much almost had to spend all your background points if you were Eisen, if you wanted to Drachenize an item. In this game, it's damn near impossible unless the GM allows you to have it.
Okay.
That's how good it is. That's how good that metal is. Like, in a world where where there's no magic items, that is the king, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Eisen. They're great. Their fighting style. Every country has like a fighting style, a bunch of fighting styles. The Eisen have one in particular called Panzerhand. They all have these giant lock gauntlets with a huge built-in shield, and then they all wield like heavy weapons in their offhand. And their entire fighting style is block with the Panzerhand with this side, and then eventually when you're ready, like when you've waited enough rounds and you've built up enough momentum, you then either deflect a blow or catch the weapon or disarm the guy, and then you use that momentum and swing in for one big huge hit with the heavy weapon and just like crush the other dude. Like just boom! Just
Jesus.
fuck them right up. It's fantastic.
Andrew Jardine should play that class.
It was great. No one has played it yet. I've never seen it played in the game, but it's pretty cool. The next analogy country is Castile, which is Spain.
Spain.
Picture, turn of the century exploration in Spain. Castanets, fucking adventurous Zorro, things like that.
If you play a Spaniard in this game, you're gonna try to play the sexy Casanova.
Yeah, that too.
Most people do.
Uh,
It's the accent.
It's fantastic. It has some of the best fighting styles.
Amazing with the rapier.
In first edition, its innate sorcery was something called El Fuego Adentro, which basically translates to the punishing fire or the strong fire, and it basically was like pyromancy, and it was almost all completely obsolete except for like this one little village somewhere that kind of cultured it in hiding.
Okay.
The reason why is because the Vestine Church, is headquartered in Castile.
Oh, of course.
So, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Well,
In this game, everybody expects the Spanish
the Inquisition is the thing in 7th, and they like to hunt down sorcerers' things. So, in second edition 7th, there is no sign of El Fuego. It does not exist, as far as I can tell.
What do they have instead?
They have the church.
Oh, fuck off!
Well, there are powers that you can bless.
I
right?
know, but
Stuff
it's
like
the
that.
damn. Nobody wants to play with the church.
There's no real. Actually, a lot of the class options are really cool. I would play a missionary style guy. Some of the class options for the missionary style people are really cool. Be like a paladin.
I would rather be an undead bringer and smite the church.
Oh, that's up to you. Anyways, yeah. So it's basically Spain. They have a lot of flamboyant. They have like a bullfighting style. They have a mysterious vagabond called El Vago, who seems to show up at the right time to protect the king from forces that would try to undermine him.
It's fucking Zorro, isn't it?
It's essentially Zorro. It's imagine if Zorro and V from Vendetta were crossed over.
Oh my
'Cause it's
god, that would be
basically-
the best movie ever.
It's basically Zorro with like the V for Vendetta mask, the Guy Fawkes mask.
So Z for Zordetta? Nope.
But
Didn't work.
it's basically there are a bunch of secret societies in the book that you can join, in the game that you can join, and one of them is called El Vagabondos, and they're a secret society that supports him.
Do you end up finding out who he is if you join that?
Do you know?
society?
You want to know who he is?
Yes.
He is whichever member of El Vagabondo needs to be Zorro at the time,
So they all pretend to be him.
whenever they need to.
Yeah.
So where if he needs to be there,
So could
you're
it
gonna
be
find
you?
someone to be him. If you
Could
can
it
be your
be
character,
you once
yeah.
you join that
There's a background
society?
called Friends of El Vagamundo, and that's what it is. It's like if you need to, you can get the costume and do it.
All right, you added a little bit more fun to the.
And of course, it's fighting like
Spaniard.
the oppressive, like in this game, the church. Don't think that the church is all bad. There's a lot of good too in it. It's just one of the main villains is Cardinal Esteban Verdugo, and he's basically like a evil inquisitor who wants to take over the. He wants
Yep.
to smite all the infidels, right? So he's like high-ranking member of the church. So the church kind of gets put into villainous positions.
So Spaniards are good and bad.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Then there's Usura, which is Russia.
Mother Russia.
Mother Russia.
Matushka.
Run by Matushka, who is basically an ancient being who is one with the land. Usura has never lost a single war because war has never come to Usura, because the moment any troops have tried to assault Usura, they have been immediately destroyed by a freak disaster, like a freak of
Either-
nature. Like nature
That's it.
just
Nature
suddenly
just fucks
decided,
them up.
like, oh, look at this freak snowstorm that completely broke your armies. Oh, look, you're walking through a mountain pass, fucking avalanche. Oh, just rampant flooding. Oh, wait, you can't get through this forest because it's just too thick and the trees just keep growing over you. Oh, shit, look at that. It's a fucking army of bears. Like, Mother Russia will not allow her land to be invaded. She rewards her people by allowing them to make a deal with Matushka. She teaches you a lesson and in exchange for that lesson, you get a special power that helps you with animal forms and things of the sort. So you can control certain animals, you can communicate with them, you can turn into them,
Which
you
is
can see through their
super
senses,
fun.
things like that. You had like the power to turn
Wolf.
into a wolf, and you could command a horse.
Not even, yeah, and I could command a horse. The thing about the wolf, why it was so powerful to me anyway, when we were playing the game, so as he mentioned earlier, you have your finesse, you have your attacks, etc. I had a character that we started out with. They were all pre-made by Phil and Amy. Thank you, Amy. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, they were all pre-made by Amy.
No.
You helped as well.
Did it together.
So I was using finesse and weaponry as my attacks, and then on top of that, because the first turn that you became a wolf, I got an extra dice, and then if I did a wolf-like action, I got an extra dice. So it all ended up being we were fighting a group of 8 guys, and I killed 5 of them in the very first turn. Like I liked the way the character
Savagery.
RP'd. That's the thing.
Savagery.
The RP of that character, there's so many things you could possibly do with that. It's insane. And the good thing about this game, when you're doing an attack, you're not just saying, oh, I attack 5 of them and I kill 5 of them. No. You're going to go through exactly what you're doing in that attack. Because if I jump at the first guy, I lunge at him and rip his face open, and then I jump off of him onto another guy, guess what? The jump off of him I'm doing counts as one of my actions. So it's not just I walk up and I go slam, slam, slam. No, you want to RP the shit out of that.
Another example of it is when I ran the demo for a group. One of the first times I ran the demo, they were playing a runaway prince and his betrothed, and there was like a political coup, and they wanted to basically either kidnap or kill the prince. And they were trying to escape the flaming palace, the burning palace. So when they escaped the palace, they were caught by a bunch of the guards and the revolutionaries who were trying to kill them, and they basically a giant fight ensued. The prince and the heiress in the fight decided to use their roles together and fight together, and decided to do it in the form of a dance. So they both rolled their finesse and their dance, and they, based on the number of successes, they got to the number of raises, they got to fight the enemy. So basically, they were like ballroom dancing. He had a sword in one hand, his arm around her, and then she had her arms around him, and he'd dodge with deflect with the blade, and then swing her around to kick them, and she would use the momentum and swing him around, and he'd slash him with the sword, and they took out like 7 dudes, and they ended it all with him dipping her and her pulling a one-shot gun out of her bodice and just shooting the last guy. And it was, 7th combat is not limited to physical stat weapon. You could...
Well, it's not Pathfinder. You're not just walking up to somebody and cutting them and then waiting your turn.
Does the rolling these stats together make sense? Is it going to look cool? If it does, you get bonus dice. The DM, I thought that was so cool what they were going to do that I gave them bonus dice to make it more spectacular, to make sure they would succeed, and it was fantastic. They also got hero points, which is the points you can use to power your abilities or to give you bonus dice later on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about Sensi, it's style. It's all about the description, the style.
For lack of a better term, 7th Sea to me is the sexy RPG. And I don't mean that as in, oh my god, everybody's naked. I mean it I've never seen an RPG that you can RP better than this one.
No.
I just haven't.
It's because the mechanics of the game revolve around the RPing as well. It's all about the story. So, anyways, the Asoran stylistically, think of it as Tsar era Russia, Catherine the Great and the Romanovs, that kind of era of Russia. And it's pretty cool.
Fucking pronounce that.
Vestin Menavijar. Aviar. Yar, it's probably Yar. Vestin Menaviar. Pronounced Vestin.
Oh, okay.
Vestin.
That's why. You just have to use that. Okay.
Yeah, use the
I was
abbreviation.
going to say, try saying that 10 times fucking fast in a campaign.
So, yes, the next one is the Scandinavian countries, Vestin. Vestamanavar is kind of like a mix of all the Scandinavian countries together. It's like the Dutch and the Vikings
Swedish
and the Swedes
Finns and everything
all mixed together in one blend. They used to all be Viking, and then eventually one of the not the races, but one of the descendants. Like it could be a race. One of the cultures of the country, known as the actual Vendel. They were like the duchy type people. They decided that they were going to create currency, and they became a mercantile power. They used basically all the pillaging that the Viking part of them used, the Viking part of their society used, and put it all into legitimate financial empires.
Yeah.
And they created currency, and now the currency that's used around the world is from the Vestan kingdoms. So
they're rolling in dough.
they're rolling in the dough.
And they don't even have to steal it anymore.
You know, but there's like a kind of a split between the people who follow the old ways, which are the Norse type of guys,
Mhm.
Viking type guys, and the people who follow the new ways, which are the Vendel mercantile guys. So it's kind of like an uneasy thing. You can either be like the mercantile prince guys, or you could be the Viking brutal whale hunting, pillaging dudes.
Okay.
The Viking dudes have access to a Norse magic, kind of like runesmithing, like the old,
Yeah, like Beowulf style.
Beowulf style, like ancient Odin, his runes that he received for wisdom, things of the sort. So they imbue these runes onto their weapons or onto themselves, or they'll shout it out, or things of the sort. They're pretty cool. We did have a guy in our first edition game. He played one of the Viking guys. He had a harpoon with like a battle rune on it, and he used like a whale hunting type of fighting school, and his harpoon was made so that he made it so that when the harpoon crits, basically in the game, when your dice explode and your dice hit tens, when your harpoon critted, it would automatically hit another guy, and then if that critted, then it would hit another guy. So he basically rolled so well that he put the harpoon through like 3 dudes and impaled them against the walls. And his fighting style, what he would do, the way he built his character, is he would impale someone with the harpoon, then walk over and punch them to death, and then rip the harpoon out. And he was like a monster. He was like a combat beast. He just fucking tore everything apart all the time. It was ridiculously insane. It was cool as fuck.
So that's the Vestan.
That's the Vestan. That's their thing. Then you have the Sarmatian Commonwealth. The Sarmatian Commonwealth are new. They weren't in first edition. They're essentially
Poland.
yeah, kind of like a Eastern Europe, Poland type of thing, by way of Transylvania and things like that.
Okay,
like
yeah.
Romania, like that type of country. The thing about Poland is when 7th Second Edition starts, one of the major political things that happened is that there was kind of a coup going on where the senators in Poland were kind of taking over everything. So the king in Poland made a declaration on his deathbed that only nobles could vote on things in Parliament, and he immediately elevated every citizen in the country to nobility.
Holy shit. Okay.
So
He wanted the power in the hands of the people.
yeah, so that created like this huge war thing that went on, and the prince is on the run, and there's this guy trying to take everything over, which is part of the not the one you played, but the other one, the actual
Yeah, the
demo.
one with the dances that you were talking
Yeah,
about.
the actual demo. That's you play the prince on the run. Now the Sarmatian Commonwealth's magical power.
Every time you flip that book, I love the smell that comes this way. I'm just tossing
Brand
that out there.
fucking new, man.
I love the smell of brand new book.
It's
Brand new
just
book, brand new
brand
game.
brand new magic cards.
Yeah, brand new magic cards.
Magic,
brand
like
new.
opening a new pack of magic, just. Oh god,
I just had a bookgasm.
fuck! I wish I played Magic, but I quit it a long time ago. Their power is called Stendaris, which is literally translated to bargain. It is a powerful
Jesus
magical tradition
Christ.
in Sarmatia. A Losahas is one who practices Stendaris, so they're called Losahas. They forged a powerful binding contract with an otherworldly powerful creature known as Dievas.
Excuse me.
But the goal of a Losahas is to learn his Dievas' full true name so he can destroy it. The Dievas' goal is to turn the Los Ahas into a villain. They are on a path of mutual destruction, and only one of them can win. They have a. How it works is each sorcerer has a personal demon, the Dievas, who sees and hears everything that the Los Ahas does, and then sometimes what he does not. They have perfect awareness of the surroundings, although it's important to note that the Dievas can't read the Los Ahas' thoughts and doesn't experience their emotions. Every Dievas has the same goal, to see their contract voided to earn their freedom and be permitted to strike a new contract with someone who isn't so versed in the rules, someone they can manipulate and use.
Mm-hmm.
Every deal that a Dievas makes in pursuit of their goal, every price they exact from their Los Ahas is to further this agenda. The Los Ahas regards their contract as a burden. They are not partners, they are jailers. The relationship between the Dievas and the Los Ahas is one of mutual destruction. A heroic Los Ahas wants to keep his Dievas in check, make sure it doesn't cause havoc or destruction or suffering. There is no denying the power of the Dievas, and there are times when it becomes necessary to make a deal with the devil you know rather than the one you don't. Basically, each deal that a Los Ahas makes with his Dieva allows both parties to grow in power and influence. What those who are not a Los Ahas themselves don't realize is the source of this power, the name. Each deal is a piece of the true name. Think of them like a letter of a syllable that when put together make up the whole. When a Los Ahas calls upon the power of the Senderis, he invokes the name of his Dievas and channels the demon's power through the Los Ahas. No one knows for certain what happens when you make the seventh deal. Some Los Ahas believes that both they and their Dievas are destroyed. Others believe that only one of the two meet their end. A small number of Los Ahas believes that making the seventh deal causes the Los Ahas and their Dievas to become one. One legend states that the Dievas enter the world as a physical entity once the seventh deal is made. Both the Dievas and the Los Ahas when the other is close, and most importantly, while the Dievas is in the world as a physical entity, it is free to act however it wishes, but it can also be destroyed just like any other physical entity.
I think that's a good enough explanation.
Yeah. No, basically deals. Each time you purchase the sorcery, the Dievas gains one deal. You select 2 minor favors for any deal you have, and always invokes those favors by spending one of those hero points. For a minor favor, you only need to ask for the effect. The bargain you made with the demon includes these minor favors. If a Los Ahas wishes to invoke the favor during an action sequence, it costs 1 raise, which is when you roll at the end of the roll, and then the normal hero point. A Dieva cannot refuse a minor favor. They're part of the larger deal. So minor favor would be something like raise a toast to my name. After I do this, you must say thank you and you must mean it. Give me a friendly handshake, smile, and make eye contact. If the Los Ahas wants to make a minor favor so that they have not purchased, they spend a hero point to ask for such a favor.
Okay.
So the favors are like different powers. So there's the darkness deal, so you can minor favors, make a room dark as night, observe an area to the shadows. Major favors, summon a shadow beast or cause an eclipse. The fire, minor favors, create a controlled and contained fire or snuff out all flames. A major favor, create a massive firestorm, destroying everything within 100 feet of the center point. Then there's like deals for cold and storm, sea, knowledge, love.
Yeah.
So basically, it's you have this own little personal demon that you cut deals with, and at some point after the 7th major deal, something's going to happen. It'll probably be determined by the GM, or if the actual book
tells
comes
you
out,
what happens. Yeah.
that comes out, that'll tell you what happens. It's kind of cool. I've yet to explore it fully because we haven't really played our 7th Street game yet since the 2nd edition
What are
came
you
out.
guys playing?
I don't know yet. Probably when we're done Deadlands.
Mention it to me.
We
If
play
you
on
ever-
Sundays.
Fine.
We play on Sunday nights when Deadlands is over. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. I kind of have a packed house so right now on a waiting list, but I'll let you know. Finally, after the Sarmatian Commonwealth, the other main country is the Vadachi. Now,
Italiano!
Vadachi is Italy, but picture the most stereotypical Renaissance era Italy, but dark. Like
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
everyone is treacherous. The slightest, the vendetta lives, right? Like everyone is like a mafioso type of thing. Like you can't insult people. there are like dozens and dozens of restrictions.
You don't fuck with Italy.
You don't fuck with me.
You don't fuck with me, homie.
Where is it here? Vodacci Customs. They should have a tradition here.
Sorry, guys, I'm just typing a little bit of information in real quick. While Phil's looking for that.
Anyways, the Vodacci Customs, there's like a huge list of them that you follow. There's a bunch of merchant families that control the entire country, and these families are basically like indebted to one another, things of the sort. Now, the thing about the Vodacci, their sorcery is very, very cool. It is my woman's favorite, my significant other's favorite. It is known as sorte. Sorte is only practiced by female Vodacci women. Because of this, unless you are a fate witch, which is what the sorte practitioners are called, as a woman in Vodacci,
right.
As a woman in Vodacci society, you're kind of a second-class citizen to the men. It's not that they're treated badly; it's just that they're never allowed to amass any real power. Now, a fate witch has the power to see the strands of fate and alter them. Basically, they have kind of a second sight where when they look at someone, they use their sorte powers by consult the tarot deck.
That's the one where they can see like the ties
And they see
right?
they see ties to people, so they see like different colored strings, and the different colored strings mean things.
I loved that class.
So like a blue string means love. So if they see a connection between one guy and like his mistress, they'll like either see a blue string, or it could be a passion string. It could be red, which is not love, which is passion, or there could be a gold string, which is a financial connection. And then every once in a while, they can see a black string, which is death. Now, the sorte can't just see these strings. More powerful fate witches can manipulate the strings. They can use these strings. I've seen them being used in combat. There's some abilities in combat where they just grab the strings with their fingers and pull the guy off balance or trip him or whatever by pulling on his fate strings. There's a certain thing that happens when a fate witch uses her powers to alter someone's strings. They get what is called a lash, which means it's kind of like a whip mark made on a part of their body, like sometimes on their face, most of the time on their face. So eventually, they all wear veils, and when they remove the veil, you can see like marks like a web all over their faces.
Jesus.
However, the fate witches are indispensable to the Vodacci males, and it's fantastic. Like they're really cool. Like they're super cool. Like they can predict the future. They can see fates intertwined, and they can cause death. Like if they pull on your death string, they can fucking kill you. The backlash is immense, but they can fucking kill you. So that's the basis of the world in 7th Sea. There are organizations like the Vesatine Church, which is all over the place, but mostly in the Spain. Their headquarters in Castile.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really cool, swashbuckly type of setting. The new rules make it incredibly cinematic.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
They're not hardline at all. Like, there's no set-in-stone combat system. Like, a dude with a huge fucking sword, or a guy with 2 little daggers, the amount of damage you deal in a fight is basically dependent on how good you roll. It's not really dependent on your actual weaponry. If they implement those kinds of rules in the future, it's very possible.
I'm hoping they don't.
No. Maybe. Who knows? We'll see. Like, there's more supplements to come. So that's just the Thea part. The thing that really got people excited when during the Kickstarter is when they were announcing future supplements, and the new super future supplements are the New World, which is basically the Americas, which have colonies run by the countries, and you can play Native Americans like Aztecs.
I was gonna say, obviously you're no Native American.
Yeah. Then there's like the the Caribbean. There's like a Caribbean type of area,
Okay.
and then there's like a Saudi Arabia ish, like a type of Arabic states, like Middle Eastern type of area, and then there's an African continent, like a kind of an African type of continent, and then they were going to do Cathay, but they decided that it was going to be too much for one Kickstarter, so there will be, when they're done the first Kickstarter, the next Kickstarter is going to be for Cathay, for Asia.
Okay.
Seven Seas Asian.
So if you buy into the game and you end up enjoying it quite a bit, keep an eye on the Kickstarter, and I'm sure on their page.
It's out now. The
See it
Kickstarter's done. Like the
for
Kickstarter's
that
done.
one, I meant for future Kickstarters.
Yeah, keep an eye out for future Kickstarters. You can get this at your local game store. The book is gorgeous. Like the artwork. Look at that. Look at this.
Looks like hand painted
Look at this
artwork.
fucking-
It's fucking beautiful.
Look at this gorgeous hand painted scenery. You know, just. You know, the countries all have their little sections, and then all of the you know, it's just great. It's just a fantastic little book.
I agree.
They very specifically put in two scenes in here. One of them of a lesbian couple, and one of them of a gay couple, like a male gay couple and a female gay couple in these books.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, because they're like, Thean Society is free. Like, Thean Society does not frown upon any of that stuff. But there's one thing that keeps people coming to 7th Sea, and something that's really, really cool about it. Secret societies. There's about half a dozen of them, and your characters can join them, and get to know what's really going on in the world.
Don't tell people about them.
I'll tell you.
They need to be secret.
There's only
Rule
one.
one is you don't talk about them.
There's only one that's truly secret. There's the Brotherhood of the Coast, which is not so much a secret society, but it's the Pirate Brotherhood. Then there's Die Kreuzritter. Die Kreuzritter are kind of a society from German, from Eisen, that hunt down monsters and supernatural creatures. Then there's the Explorers Society, which is basically they want to seek out these ancient relics from ancient civilizations. The Invisible College, which is all about advancing science in secret, hiding it from the church. The Knights of the Rose and Cross, which are here to protect royal families, and it's the only one that is publicly known. Everything in it is secretive, but the actual society is publicly known. Then there's Los Vagabundos, which is kind of the sorcerers, which is kind of the Zorro guys. Then there's Mosutes Skara, or Mochute Skara. Mochute Skara. It's a brand new one. It's a brand new secret society from the Sarmatian Commonwealth. I don't really know what they're all really about. Basically, they seem like kind of a secret society. It's kind of like a Red Cross type thing. Then there's the Rilaciare. Rilaciare are essentially anarchists. They want to be down with the nobility. Then there's Sophia's Daughters. They are a society that are kind of like oracles, and they want to prevent something from happening. And then the last secret society, I will only tell you their name, because they are a DM-only society, and players aren't supposed to know about it. They're called the Novus Ordo Mundi.
You know I'm going to go research them now, right?
What? Oh, you can't only want there's a whole bunch of supplements in the first edition that talk about them, but in the actual first edition book, they're not even in the player's guide, and there's only one page dedicated to them in the DM's guide.
Jesus.
and they're like the players aren't even supposed to know this name exists. So you join these secret societies and you get to find out what's going on behind the actual going-ons, behind the scene of Thea. You don't have to. You can play someone who's blissfully unaware and just goes on regular swashbuckling adventures. Or you can find out what's really going on. Now,
Either way, it's going to be an amazing journey.
the only thing I've avoided in 7th Sea, the thing that makes it particular, is people might be wondering why it's called 7th Sea. There are 6 seas that surround Thea. Each of them are in different parts, and each of them have different names for their reasons. The final sea, the 7th Sea, is basically an old sailor's tale. Some drunken sailor in a bar will talk about it someday, or it'll be like, praise, or may the 7th Sea, may you never sail the 7th Sea. The rumors state that it's, on some nights or some days, the sun is too bright, or the moon is too full. The ocean will take on a silvery sheen, and you'll be sailing in a world where the winds blow a certain way but send your ship the other, or strange creatures stare at you from under the waters, or you see weird wispy beings flow through the sky, and then eventually, after a while, you'll be back to normal. This is known as probably the 7th Sea. Not a lot of people know. They think maybe it's like another world, or another dimension, or maybe the afterlife. And you sail through the afterlife for a brief moment, or things of the sort. But that is the great mystery of the 7th Sea, and your players have to solve it. Linked to the 7th Sea is the other great mystery of Thea, the Cerneth, the beings who originally made the deal for the sorcery. There are these weird ruins and artifacts that people find. The capital city of the Montaigne actually has an underground catacomb just built underneath their city, that they have no idea how it got there. They have no idea who built it or how it was built. There's an island on the coast of Adachi that seems to not be a real island. It seems to be completely artificially made, and every once in a while it will disappear beneath the waves and then reappear. There's all kinds of these weird caches, these weird things all over the place, and they're left behind by an ancient civilization that predates Numa, known as the Cerneth.
The Atlantis.
The CERN. Atlantis is one of them. It's a good example. So a lot of the people who sail sometimes fund expeditions just to go to these different caches, these different islands, these different ruins, and bring back weird technology, like a strange ball that seems to just sit there on a table like a dead weight, but when you turn a certain panel on it, glows brightly and starts to float about the room. It floats around the room 7 times, then stops and lands back on the table and does nothing else ever, no matter what they've tried to do. Or a weird telescopic lens that, if you turn the lenses a certain way, will project a focused beam of hot light that can melt glass. Or just weird technological devices that seem impossible to decipher. And they are all the rage in Thean courts. So, all the nobles like to fund expeditions to find them and show them off to all their guests and be like, "Ooh, look at me, I'm special." So, 7th Sea is like an onion. You get the outer layers, and then there's all these layers inside.
Shrek is love.
And every layer is fantastic. Better than the next. And ultimately...
So it's nothing like an onion. 'Cause onions just are not fantastic.
Ultimately, I love 7th Sea. I think it's a fucking great game. I think it's a fantastic setting. I've never played anything like it. The RPG is very freeform. The rules are very freeform. You need 10-sided dice to play it. and people with a lot of imagination. The second edition Kickstarter was a resounding success, and I love the product that came out of it. I'm just absolutely looking forward to what John Wick Productions is going to pump out for future 7th supplements. And of course, I'm sure, Adam, you've already expressed the desire to explore Thea and,
I wanna play this
and all its secrets.
We get to play it for like 3 hours, and I swear to God,
Free RPG
I was
Day.
so mad that we didn't get to keep going.
I played it. I ran it on Free RPG Day, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely a hit. I fell in love with the first one, and the second edition just renewed it for me. I'm sad that there's a lot of plot lines from the first edition that have been retconned, or time has been kicked back, because at the end of the first edition, the last supplement they ever released revealed that they discovered the New World. There was a war between the Vestin and the Vendel, which are the two parts of that country, and the Vendel completely annihilated the Vestin civilization, and only a few of them escaped. And the last chapter shows these Native American people seeing the ships of the runaway Vestin arriving on their shores, and that was the last thing that was ever published. And that was where it was going to start. But here they seem to have resolved that whole storyline, and there's the New World, but all of the other discoveries, like the Seventh Sea, the lost island of Vodacce that got sank beneath the waves, the death of Captain Rice, all of that stuff is all either not in here yet, or
Just
whatever.
retcon in general.
Just retcon in general. It's like they took everything that was created and kept what they wanted, got rid of what they didn't. Maybe they're setting it up for later. But it's pretty cool. There was also a card game. There was also a collectible card game for 7th Sea.
We can talk about that at a different time.
Well, that's how it influenced the story, because it was made by the same people who made L5R,
I know.
so they used that as well. But no, we're not going to talk about the card game, because the card game is obsolete. The card game is dead in the water and has never been released again.
It's true.
So, all in all, 7th Sea, when I play it more, I'll be able to give it a better rating, but at this point, solid 4. Solid 4 out of 5. It's just so innovative, so new. It's so refreshing. It's so refreshing to have an RPG that combat and an RPG where the mechanics are second thought to the role play, but the mechanics are so simple that you don't really need to think about them that much. You can just use them as you see fit.
Yeah. I can't really rate it because I only played the
You only played it once.
intro
yeah.
to it.
But what you played, though...
Oh, what I played was a 5 out of 5, but that's why I can't really rate it because I haven't played enough of it.
Mm.
I don't know how it actually builds, but what I played was a 5 out of 5. If you're playing it for a short burst, it's fucking phenomenal.
The second edition is great. If you can go and find a used, like your local bookstore, like I got this used. I got like the entire pretty much all of the first edition run used. I'm only missing 2 books. And I would have the entire first edition. And I did not regret the purchase. It was fantastic. I loved it to death. Of course, second edition is out now, so I may have to resell it to comic. No, I probably won't though, because I really, really like it in general. I
Of
just
course.
love the whole thing. I'll just grab a supplement and reread it because the fiction, the setting, the culture that they've created for the game is so rich. It's so full that just reading the supplements again just fuels your imagination. And that's ultimately what's most important about 7th Sea. If you want to get a group to play this, you let them know that let their imagination run wild when you play this.
Yep.
So that's our
This has
review
been 7th Sea.
of 7th Sea. Our general talking about 7th Sea.
My name, of course, is Fat Adam.
And I'm Fatter Phil. And
Next week we will be doing Bluffing Game.
bluffing games.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Like Sheriff of Nottingham and Avalon and the Resistance.
Yeah.
Avalon, which is the skin of the Resistance, which is the one I prefer the most.
I was gonna say Avalon has a little bit of extra to it, which I like.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. Resistance, when they came out with their newest one, had a lot extra, but it was almost just all confusing as shit.
You
Not
talk
worth
about
it.
it. You
Yeah.
talk about it next.
Let's talk about it next time.
So
Thank you so much for tuning in to All on the Table.
yep, and we are definitely from GameItAll.com, your one stop for all of your gaming and entertainment needs. Just like this, comments, suggestions on what you want to see in the future, and hopefully you'll keep watching. So thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a great day.